So where is it? I will. Start.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum. I'm Navid on behalf of Sunnah Islamic Society. I welcome you all in our Islamic Awareness Week 2011. This is an Islamic tradition that we normally start with the Quran recitation. So I have asked Brother Nazrul to
ألف لام ميم ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه هدى للمتقين الذين يؤمنون بالغيب ويقيمون الصلاة ومما رزقناهم ينفقون والذين يؤمنون بما أنزل إليك وما أنزل من قبلك وبالآخرة هم يوقنون أولئك على هدى من ربهم وأولئك هم المفلحون إن الذين كفروا سواء عليهم أأنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون ختم الله على قلوبهم وعلى سمعهم وعلى أبصارهم غشاوة ولهم عذاب عظيم.
For your beautiful Quran recitation. And now I'm going to give a brief description about why we are doing this Islamic Awareness Week. So in an Islamic society aimed at providing information about Islam to whoever was interested. But it has also always been about bringing people together, sharing thoughts, learning from each other, whatever our color or creed. We are also trying our best to provide opportunities for people to work together on issues of mutual concern. It is important to find out how Muslims themselves understand, interpret, and apply Islam in their lives, rather than relying on the newspapers or this like health field website. Therefore, besides this year will be about bringing people's heart together. This is our aim. It's an open, honest, and civilized way, online and offline, both. So right now, I'm going to pass this mic to our speaker for today, Brother Nazrul pramanik. He's one of the director of Islamic Dawah and Practice Center in Australia, in Adelaide. So he will discuss about our main theme of our Islamic Awareness Week, that is, what is the best way of life? Why we say that Islam is the best way of life. So Brother Nazrul.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Dear respected Brother MC, and today in the month of Holy Ramadan, present our dearest brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. First of all, I'd like to welcome all of you to this special session. This set of majlis, according to narrations of the Prophet, it's a blessed session when people come together to discuss and to share knowledge. And angels of the heaven, they also mention their name and also speak for goodness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's all are here to be very fortunate to be here today. Dear brothers, today I'll talk about a little bit different than normally people talk in the month of Ramadan. I'll touch on the men from Mecca and women from Medina. This is very important because we need to have the art and techniques so that we can live together, husband and wife in a family. Now, many of us are married, and some of us planning to marry, isn't it? So this might be very useful for you. And the people who are already married, maybe for their children, we can use this sort of information, inshallah. The best way like Islam is also going to talk about family relations. So today my focus will be family relations, and let's start on that. So when I start with the topic, actually I wanted to make this topic a little bit interactive, and so you can participate with me. When I talk about men from Mecca and Medina, do you think that I'm talking about that Adam was dropped in Mecca and Eve was dropped in Medina and they come together? Is this something you're thinking, or I'm talking something else? Something else? Alright, so if you Google about human relation, you will find the Western writers writes about the men are from Mars and women are from Venus, something like that. When those sort of topics. Whereas Islamic writers they write differently, like men from Mecca and Medina. The main objective of this kind of title is telling that actually men and women are different. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us very, very differently. Surah Al-Hujurat, in verse 13, Allah will say, Ya ayyuhan nas, inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wa unsa wa ja'alnakum shuyuban wa qaba'ila lita'arafu, inna akramakum indallahi atqakum, inna Allaha alimun khabir. O mankind, we have created you from a male and a female, and made you into nations and tribes, that you may know one another. It is the most honorable of you with Allah is that who has the al-taqwa, the piety, and Allah is all-knowing. So from this very verse, dear brothers and sisters, Allah is telling us that you are different. I have created you very, very different. Some are black, some are white, some are male, some are female, and we look different, but so that we can know each other. Now, before we go some of the secrets of men and women relation, we need to know the art of choosing your spouse, isn't it? Before we get married, we should know what sort of bride I should go for, isn't it? For the sisters, they also should know what sort of husband I am looking for, and what Islam talks about us, what Quran and Hadith telling us how to do that. So the first, in Quran, chapter 24, verse 32, and chapter 22, verse 26, and also Al-Quran, chapter 60, verse 10, Allah is ordering us or recommending us that when you choose your husband, for sisters, when you choose husband, you must see two conditions. That the person is with high moral character, and number two, the person with religious background has a strong religious background. Because if the sister is very pious, is making salah 5 times a day, and if you choose a very rich husband who never prays for you, that doesn't work. And even some of the scholar even has given very strong words against it. For example, Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal said that this sort of marriage is incorrect because a Muslim who doesn't pray intentionally is already a kafir. So therefore, a practicing women cannot marry the person who never prays, something like that. So therefore, these two are very important. Ethical conduct and respect. Number two, regarding choosing our wives, we have heard this famous hadith, isn't it? That Rasul said that people normally look for wealth, beauty, lineage, and deen. But at the end, Rasul say, but you should give priority on deen. Alright, so actually, in this hadith, Rasulullah, how many conditions he recommended? 4 or 1? 1, isn't it? So sometimes we we get, we misinterpret. Sometimes we thought maybe, this 4 or is not 4. 4 is people normally do. But Rasulullah said 1. It's the thing, it's the priority. Compatibility is very important. Compatibility. Are we the husband and wife, or potential husband and wife? Are these two persons spiritually compatible? Are they mentally compatible? Are they financially compatible? If the husband is so rich and the wife is so poor, family or something like it, doesn't matter. It has to be equitable, it has to be compatible. Otherwise, some of this relationship doesn't last long. And finally, the 4-point method of decision making is very important. How you make the decision? Istishara. Istishara means you ask people to know about each other, to find out how the person is. Number 2 is istikhara. Because sometimes when you ask your friend about a potential bride or something, people actually know whatever they say. But only Allah knows the heart, isn't it? Allah knows the inner, the real information. So therefore, we have to istikhara. And 4, determination and trust. So once we have istikhara, once we get some sign from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then we must determine it. Say that this is what we have done, and then we have to trust on it. If we maintain this 4, and inshallah, the relationship will be long lasting. Because, dear brothers and sisters, marriage in Islam is not a romantic movie of Hollywood or Bollywood, isn't it? It's a long-term commitment. So 2 persons is sharing their whole life together for the rest of their lives. So don't take it very simply, very lightly. It's very, very important. And you have to give very important time in decision making, inshallah. Now I'll share some of the secrets that men and women will have. Allah has created men and women differently. So we need to know that there are some of the ingredients of a man and some of the ingredients of a woman. Then we can deal with it. So this is very important because if doctor knows the disease, then he can treat. But if doctor doesn't know what the disease is, it's very difficult to treat. So what I'll do today, I'll first talk about the differences, and at the end we'll talk about how we can deal with those. The first one, a man loves to cook himself by what he produces. So this is typically a man. A man gets pride what he produces for the family, for the wife. So that's his manhood. So therefore, dear brothers and sisters, this is very important that this is a core Allah has given us, and the women are complementary, emotionally based to the man. Now, to prove this point, we can go back to the origin of our creation. In chapter 20, verse 25, so 55, and chapter 3, verse 59, and there's another authentic hadith, what we know, that Adam was created from dust, and Eve was created from the rib of Adam. You already agree? Alright. So now, let's analyze. What is dust originally? Dust is soil. It means art. It's normally attached to work or physical activities. Normally in our old generations, when Adam was created, how they used to live. They used to go to the dust, they plow it and they harvest it and they got produces out of it. So dust is originally related to work. So therefore, Adam is always physical. Adam is always related to work. Whereas Eve is created from rib of Adam. So therefore, Eve's immediate origin is Adam, the man. So that's why the women always wants to be with the husband. They want husband's time with them most of the time. Because their immediate origin is Adam, and the next origin is dust. Whereas Adam's origin is dust. So Adam wants to go back to the origin, but the Eve wants to go back to the first origin, which is Adam, and then to dust, isn't it? So therefore, we need to find out the differences. That men are normally physically based, and men are attached to the world. Even though to this modern world, we are changing some of the roles, but this is mainly always originate all the efforts to us. So therefore, dear sisters, sometimes maybe your husband will not have a job over the time, and you might have a good career. And at that point, if you sometimes undermine your husband, you will hurt his manhood. And once you hurt your manhood, you let with a male, not a man anymore. So you have to be very, very careful that you want a man, not a man. Because Allah has given this characteristic to man, that man wants to take pride of what he produces, and man is physically based and women are emotionally based. Let's go to the second one. As I was saying, men are physically based and women are emotionally based. How can prove that? Sometimes husband or wife, they got some argument, and you see after some time the husband is going to bed and can sleep in a very nice weather for the rest of the night. But you see the women, for the rest of the night, she couldn't sleep. Because they're very emotionally based, they're very disturbed with whatever happened. But the man can fall very quickly because men are not emotionally based, men are physically based. So that's the difference. So if you know these differences, you can deal with it. And because of that, men are physically based and women are emotionally based. Women love the man first and then attracted to him. On the other hand, men attracted first and then start to love. This is in all culture, not only Islamic culture. It's all culture. This is how Allah has created us. So we need to know. So I'd like to share one hadith that the smart women or smart men, when they recognize this and they deal with it, they can have a very sound relationship. This hadith regarding Umm Sulaim and Abu Talha. They have a very beautiful son, and Abu Talha gone out for work for a while, and meantime his son died at home. So Umm Sulaim, the all other members, not to mention this to Abu Talha when he returns. So when Abu Talha returns, Umm Sulaim, she dressed up the beautiful dress, and she fed her husband, and then she put all the jewelry and gifts by her, and she got to bed with him, and they got intimate relation at the end. And then Sulaim asking Abu Talha, think about it. Say, can I ask you something? Then Abu Talha, yes. He said, if our neighbor gives some trust on us, and later on the neighbor wants to get trust that back, what should we do? He said, put them to return to them because that's not ours. Then Sulaim said, can I share information today? That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us a trust and He has taken it. Our son has done it. And dear brothers and sisters, as any other husband would be angry, isn't it? So Abu Talha was very angry. He said, how come? You were different women, how come you're telling me now? Doing everything you have done with me, even you want to bear with me, and not telling me my son is dead. So he took Sulaim to Prophet Muhammad complaining of it. He said, this is what happened. My wife did this to me. That my son was dead and she did all these things. Prophet was smiled and blessed both of them and said, whatever you have done last night, me and Allah will bless on. And later on they got another child in that pattern. So from this house, what we can see that Sulaim was a very, very smart lady. So she knew the differences of men and women. She knew that men are physically based. So therefore, she addressed that with her husband. You can also see in today's, when you watch some movies, for example, typical Hindi movies, what they do. Normally, necessarily or unnecessarily put some love story. And you will see that, both family not agreeing with it, isn't it? And you will see, they are out of the house. And they call, in a desert. And suddenly, without any any sign, you see so many people coming, the dancers, and then the song is started, this and that. It's very dream and fantasy, something like that. This is something women always like. Because women like their fantasize, they're more dreamy. And the people, the producers, the marketers of the movie, they know this fact. That's why they always put these things in their movies so that they can sell better. So we can capitalize that information in our family life, isn't it? Next secret, and try to learn about each other's interests and hobbies. So we know that men and women are different. So how we can deal with it smartly. For example, the brother likes cricket so much, but the wife doesn't like it. So the brother in front of the TV, watching cricket, a few hours, and the woman is bored. Do you think this is a good relation now? On the other hand, maybe brother likes soccer or footy, sister doesn't like. So important time they have to be together, but they are not. Because one is one's interest in something else, and others' interest in something else. So in that case, for the sake of a good relationship, sometimes we need to do this. Sisters probably thinking that, okay, my husband likes badminton so much, but I don't like it. But why not I give a gift of a nice racket in this Eid? We think how much this husband will be so pleased with the wife. Says, I know that my wife doesn't like badminton, but she chose a badminton racket for me. So she really loves me, something like that. Vice versa, same thing when the husband thinks that my wife has special interest, even though I don't have that interest, so husband should do something like that. So this is how to close the gaps. Nothing goes in man's brain. Another fact that Allah has created us differently. Man and women, they both have a quota of words. According to some research, that man has 7,000 words a day. So man has to spend how many words? 7,000 words a day. And the women around 20,000 words a day. And now, think about it. The man, early in the morning, coming to work, isn't it? And he's finishing his quota, isn't he? He's talking to his colleagues and working this and that. So by 5 o'clock, what happens? So this person already almost finished, isn't it? See, he's tired, he's not going home, and his box is finished, and his brain goes to the nothing box. His brain doesn't work anymore, it's all finished. On the other hand, the sister who is waiting at home, she got 20,000 of words, isn't it, in her bag. And she finished only few because of the kids and others. So she's waiting, okay, I'm just waiting when the husband comes, and keep your life going, and I finish my day, that's when the words, isn't it? What happened actually? At the end, when the husband returned home, this is what happened, isn't it? I mean, the one goes to nothing box, and other person wants to finish her works, isn't it? So if we know this fact, so how we can deal with this? We can deal with this that sisters should also summarize, not too much talking, and brothers should also increase the tolerance, and so should also tolerate it. Otherwise, it doesn't last that long. If everything is like that, and the sisters, they can't speak that much, and husband is always busy. So that relation, doesn't last that long. We have to be considerate each other. Another difference is material language and emotional language. Man uses material language, and women uses emotional language. So when husband gives a gift to wife, actually he assumes that I'm also telling my wife that I love you, isn't it? So because men, we are very, very short-term, very straight to the point. Men doesn't want all this elaboration, they don't like it. On the other hand, women, they help with the gift, but they also want to hear the word that I love you, you should tell me, you understand? So that's the difference. So men, we give the gift and we finish. We thought everything is done, that carries everything, isn't it? But women, no, they're not happy with it. Women wants to hear also, because they're emotional, they're fantasizing, they're dreaming, they are, this is how they are. So, from this information we can do. When you give a gift to my wife, I should also make some words with it. I can write nice SMSs, I can do all this stuff, why not do it for the sake of, making a good relationship. At the same time, when sisters, when they receive something from the husband, sisters will also acknowledge, because their better language they're using. Therefore, that gift carries the words too. Next one, women love men who listen. So can I ask you, whoever married here and whoever not married, thinking to marry, if I ask you to make a list 1 to 5, what do you want from your wife or from your future wife? 1, 2, 3, 4. Just one word. What do you want from her? Any? Love?
Caring.
Caring. Okay. What else? And what about sisters? What do you want from your husband or your future husband? What do you really want from them? According to surveys, there was a survey done. So you ask men and also women that list what you want from your wife, and also sisters what you want from your husband. So the top list from the man was respect. So man wanted respect from me. I want many other things, but my top one, that my wife has to respect me, to value me. My wife has to be my friend. On the other hand, the top list from the women is what? Listen. I want my husband to listen. I want many other things, but this is my first condition, that my husband or my future husband will listen to me. It's very important. Therefore, sisters, we always make sure that we don't hurt your husband's manhood, because he wants respect from you. At the same time, husbands also should consider that women always like them asked to listen to them. So therefore, we have to be. I'll share some of the hadith and how Prophet ﷺ utilized this fact with his wife. Today's busy life, today's modern lifestyle is very difficult actually to get listened. Sisters, even though they want to listen, but sometimes they don't get enough time from the husband. So what we can do, we can use the Mayotte theory. You can sit down with your family and divide it with all the time, 24 divided into 4. Like my time, your time, our time, and family time. So we can divide and make an agreement to sign both of you and put on the page. So that way you can have more time. Or you can make your husband to listen to you. Or you can also make your wife to respect you by doing this. I'll share some of the hadith. The first hadith Aisha about love. Dear brothers and sisters, you know that Prophet ﷺ used to have very romantic relation and with Aisha Ranha. And Aisha Ranha spent most of her life in knowledge. And most of the Prophet's family life, today we know from her hadith. So the first one is, one day, Aisha Ranha asked Prophet ﷺ, "O Prophet, how much do you love me?" That's the question. Aisha Ranha asking Prophet ﷺ. Prophet says, "I love you like a knot on a rope." Rasulullah replied, "I love you like a knot on a rope." Tie a rope on a rope. Then Aisha was not satisfied yet, saying that, "How does the knot look like now?" And Rasulullah said, "The knot is exactly as it is." What he's trying to say, that when I get married to you, the loving knot is exactly today, exactly like that. And then Prophet already know that what Aisha wanted. At the end, Prophet said, "By Allah, nothing will harm me in this life when I know that you will be my wife in paradise." See how romantic statement is that? Because Prophet knew that Aisha wanted reassurance of their love, wanted to compliment, and wanted romantic treatment. So if the wife likes that, so whoever married here, we should apply that. Normally, when we get married, initially, the husband always listen, give more time, initially, before marriage or around the marriage time, after marriage. But over the time, the husband becomes busy and they don't maintain that patience anymore. And at that time, the relationship becomes able to go down. So we can get benefit from this studies that how the person used to handle that. So occasionally we should reassure, we should repeat, we should be talking this romantic speaking to our wives. Another hadith is another hadith. This hadith is a very I like this hadith because this is very real. Last 2 years back when I got to Hajj, I wanted to feel that hadith by myself. The hadith is like that. One night, Rasul was staying in Aisha's house, and at midnight, Prophet woke up, and he was going out of the house. Aisha noticed it, that my husband woke up and going, where he's going. So she became curious. So she wanted to follow, but she doesn't want Prophet to know it. Because as you know, Aisha was very young, so she just, she's more curious and more adventurous type personality. And she knew that he has other wives too. So probably she's trying to follow. And Prophet has gone to Jannatul Baqi. Jannatul Baqi is the graveyard of the companions. So today, if you go to Makkah, and the grave of Uthman bin Affan, that was the first part of Jannatul Baqi in that time. Because the Jannatul Baqi extended towards the Masjid Nabawi now. So what I did, I measured from Aisha's house to Usman's grave. That's the boundary. Because that's the time Aisha was following Rasulullah, isn't it? Using my steps, I measured around 500 steps of mine. So it's around 400 meters. So this is what happened. It's very romantic. And then Rasulullah finished his dua in the Jannatul Baqi, and Aisha was just following from behind. And then when Rasulullah was turning back, and Aisha was running back to the house, and she was pretending that she didn't do anything, she was sleeping. Rasulullah meantime already noticed it, that somebody followed him. So Rasulullah came back, he stayed to his house and put his hand on Aisha's and she found that her heart beat up and down. And they said, Aisha, what happened to you? Then Aisha said, Ya Rasulullah, can I ask you a question? When Muslims visit graveyard, what dua they should make? Then Rasulullah say, this is the dua to say, he smiled. So that's how this came here. Dear sisters, from here, as a typical husband, what they will do? They will call on the wife, isn't it? Why you are changing the topic? I mean, he followed me. You don't trust me. Something like that, isn't it? I want to make dua, and he followed me. But look at our Prophet. She just smiled, and she just said, no, she takes it as a romantic gesture, or something like that. So this is what we have to do. In our family life, many of our things we have to consider, we ignore some of the things that our wife does. If you pick all the faults or something like that, the relationship will not be good. Same thing like husbands. What the sister should not be in everything husband does. Next hadith is also related to another hadith. Aisha was telling a story to Prophet Muhammad. Oh Prophet, do you know that in Medina, Abu Jar and Jar, they got the most romantic marriage. And because they loved so much each other that I didn't find any storybooks ever. This is Asharam was saying, then Asharam was saying, dear Rasulullah, how much do you love? After telling this story, then Rasulullah would say, my love to you is like Abu Zara to Umm Zara. Oh, sorry, the story actually, when Asharam was saying, and then she said, but Abu Zara and Umm Zara, even though they were the most romantic marriage, and they got mostly they love each other, but at the end they divorce each other. So that's the story. Divorce each other. Then she said, how much you love me? Then Prophet said, my love for you is like Abu Zara to Umm Zara, but I'll never divorce you. So, dear brothers and sisters, Rasulullah knew that Aisha wanted a reassurance, because after hearing that story, that in Medina, most romantic marriage end up with a divorce. So she's scared. That's why she's asking the Prophet, how much you love me now? And that's why Rasulullah was saying yesterday that my love is like them, very strong, but I'll never divorce it. This is something we can get benefit from this hadith. That we also have to be yeshua to our wives, all these statements. So that way we can make each other happy. Another hadith I just need to quickly share. Rasulullah said, oh Aisha, I know when you are angry with me. I know when you are happy with me. Then how? The Rasulullah said, when you say, I swear by the Lord of Ibrahim, so that means you are angry with me. But when you say, I swear by the Lord of Muhammad, then I know you are happy with me. Dear brothers and sisters, it's a very important point. Then Asharam will say, oh Rasulullah, that will just slip off my tongue, but my real love in my heart is always with you. So now from this, that even when she was angry, she maintained the most adab of Islam, that she never hurt her husband. See, the intellectual statement, she just changing the statement a little bit, isn't it? The Lord of Ibrahim and Lord of Muhammad, the same person is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But she is giving a message to her husband, saying that I'm not happy with you now. You understand? But she's not, making any bad words. Like today's wife or today's husband, when they start argument, they sometimes cross the limit, they sometimes cross the border. But look at this beautiful, relationship over there. That even, when they are angry, still they maintain some calm and they maintain. They keep the manhood of the husband, isn't it? They always keep the respect. Remember the two things: the man wants respect and the woman wants listen, isn't it? Don't forget, this is very important for our life. Fifth secret: men and women use different sides of brain. This is very another important thing, that our brain has two sides, left and right. We normally use left side mostly, and women use right side. So because of that, you will see the career path and some of the things women are very good at it, and other things men are very good at it. It's because of the way our brain functions. I'll give an example. You can see the left brain functions are mainly analytical thought, logic, language, science, and math. This is the left, and that's the men are mostly good at it. There's already exceptions. On the right is mainly historical thought, intuition, creativity, art, and music, all this is not right. So therefore, women are very good at those, design, creativity, art, all these things. So women are very good at it. I work in Texas. I work in back-end, system-oriented thing that I do in my department. Very few women, mostly men. So you can also see sometimes the women they can't see the men, right? Not all women can see men properly. It's because of that. They left and right. It's the differences. But one thing that women have is very important. Their power of switching is very stronger than men. So they can switch between left and right very quickly. Because of that, women are multitasking. But men are not multitasking because once they engage in something, they cannot change quickly. But women can. You see the women, most of the secretary or receptionists nowadays is women, isn't it? Do you know why? If not only even the Muslim countries too, women are the receptionists. It's not because women are beautiful. It's wrong because it's not because of that. Because when a man takes this job, he resigns after a few months because cannot cope with this multitasking, thing. A phone comes in, boss coming in, many things in the office happening. And if you are a single person, you cannot do that. So you need a brain that can function multitasking. So therefore, Allah has given this ability to women. Therefore, you find that in the kitchen, women is cooking. At the same time, look at feeding the baby and taking the phone. And you from the sofa saying, honey, can I have a cup of chai, isn't it? And she's also making it. Think about it. So multitasking. But so that's very important that Allah has given that to them. Another thing is women look specific and men are very, very general. Do I have time or not? 10, 15 more minutes? 5 minutes? That's to go to rush with them. But quickly, women look very specific and men are very, very general. So I'll give an example. There is a study done. The one man was put in an empty room, and another woman also after that put in the empty room, and they asked the question, what did you see in the room? So the man said, I did say only 4 words, nothing else. So when they asked the women what to say, the women got for 30 minutes. So in the other 4 words, of course, the roof was this, alright? One corner of the word, the north corner is darker than the south, and the north corner, bottom line, there is a pain. The painting was written this, that side, this side, She was keep talking. So that's the survey result. Because women always see specifics. Man is always in general. So therefore, when you go to look for a bride, don't go yourself, take your sister with you. Then you can get a great assessment. Because they can see in detail, but men only see the in general. So we already talked about that. The last thing I said, lie is allowed. You can tell a lie to maintain a relationship. For example, this is authentic hadith that you can do that. For example, your husband or wife, your relationship is not that good. So to make it better, you can always tell something. In a boring night, you can always say, what a confession night today. You don't mean it, but to please your wife. Because they like romantic statements, isn't it? Or the wife can use it, the wife knows that, I don't like my mother-in-law that much. That's why not, to amuse my husband, I say, my mother-in-law is the best mother I ever seen, or something like that. This sort of things is allowed by Islam, but don't abuse it, don't use it out of limit. But you can apply this to have a better relationship, inshallah. Have you seen shopping men and shopping women? Shopping men, if I ask a man to buy 1 pair of shoes from Kmart, alright, it will be straight, isn't it? If I ask the same thing to women, what will happen? Do you think the women will go to Kmart first or other shop first? Probably other shop first, isn't it? And at the end, they will come back with another explanation because, this is how, Allah has given them. Camping men, camping women, sometimes if you want to go for holiday, and if you want to pack, well, men pack very quickly, isn't it? But women, they pack a long time. Sometimes they pack so much that after the holiday, half of the packing thing are unused. It happens, because this is how different we are. Now, quickly, let us celebrate our differences. Differences should not be taken as a difference. We have to celebrate it. Think about that life is a boat, and men and women, we are the captain and the co-captain. We are heading to the Jannah, and we are, we have to struggle. We have to struggle with the boat, isn't it? The storm will come everything. Take that way. So we'll have so many chances and we'll go with it. So if you take that way, inshallah, what men likes is different than what women like. So celebrate the differences and remove negatives and be not positive. Learn each other's language. So men should learn women language a bit. Alright? And the women should learn men language because men are material with the emotional language. And we should imagine the women as a bag. When I marry, that bag, I have sorrow, I have negatives, I got positives, everything with me now. So I have to take it as a package. Same thing when the sister gets husband, husband like a bag, and bag has everything in it. So you have to take it like a package. And we have to be realistic that nothing will happen in the family. It's only we can only dream about it, but in reality it will happen. I'll give an example. Like in Prophet's life, something like happened. Sometimes we know that Aisha was not happy with him and he gone to his father's house. Sometimes one day Saudi get a plate of food to Aisha's house to give to the Prophet, and Aisha was just put it aside, the plate was broken and said how dare you eat that food? Don't you know that I can feed my husband? Today is my turn. Say, this happens also some, Polar taken the plate and requested Aisha to replace it. So, it happened. We know that Umar was one of the strongest Caliph ever in the history of humankind. And the people, when they hear his voice, sometimes some people urinate in him. How strong he was. So one day, one Sahaba, he has a problem with his wife. His wife doesn't respect him, men like this, the wife doesn't respect him. So he wanted to complain to the Caliph. So he went to Umar's house, knocked the door, and after knocking the door, he was hearing some sound coming from the house. So he was careful and said that a woman's voice was raised, and there's an argument happening inside. Then he gave up. He thought, okay, I came to the wrong place. She was going back. And then Umar came back and opened the door. Said, where are you going? You knock the door. He said, no, you have to move in. The reason I came, I got the answer already. Because the problem I'm facing, you are having the same problem. So therefore, how can you solve my problem? So then Umar said, look, after my age until today, they are raising our children without any pay. They are, looking after us and they're going to pay. They look after the house. They are not by legally. If they refuse to do it, then you have to bring your own maid or something like that. It's not true. So why not we provide some of their education? So this is how Umar was advising his Sahaba. So we have to be realistic. This will happen, but we have to deal with it, inshallah. I'm going to finish, inshallah. Be part of the solution, not part of the problem. And for the sisters, if the sister got 3 kids, actually how many kids she got? 4. The additional one is a big kid, isn't it? So that sisters has to know that quickly when you got an argument or when you got some differences in the family, we can apply these steps to resolve it. Or think, decide, peace, listen, and agree. First, you have to think when you have to put this, to your husband or to your wife, because you want to make muhasabah. Then decide the time and keep it short and simple. Sometimes we make a long story, so it doesn't work out well. Then you have to listen. When you put your argument, when you make criticism to your wife, then after give her chance to talk to her part. Sometimes we say my part, but we don't listen other part. We cannot do that and agree. We have to compromise a bit. We have to use compliment sandwich technique. When you get a difference of opinion or you got some argument or something happening in the family, the best technique is compliment sandwich technique. Do you know this? In sandwich, the top one is what? The bread, which is a compliment, a positive thing you have to say before you say the negative one. Okay, negative one is in the middle. The middle one is the part, that's the negative one, and the last one also compliment. So this is how you do it. First you say the positive, then negative, then positive. Then because we are very, very weak. If you don't compliment before you criticize me or something, people become defensive and it doesn't work out. So for example, somebody backbites you or your wife or husband, how you do this? You can say, first you say that I know that you are my best closest friend ever. Isn't it? Right? So this is a compliment, isn't it? She calls it or she likes it. Then, but it hurts me when it heard that you talked about against me negative, isn't it? Then you say, but what I like that, if you don't like anything of me, please directly talk to me. This is what I like. And then he said, I always found you on my side, and inshallah, I think that you will be always at my side. I will be your side and you my side, inshallah. So this is a compliment, isn't it? So you say the negative thing in between the positive things. So this is how we can address the differences, inshallah. And don't look for faults. When people look for the faults, according to another research, the people who look for faults, they are unable to do that. If you look for faults, it means you are that type of person. If you look somebody's positive side, it means you are that type of person. It's very important. And when you put fingers like that, so 3 fingers pointing to you, isn't it? So you have to be also do that. And we should not be judgmental. If I say that 55 years of black American without a job, if I ask you what's the reason? Any volunteer? What's the reason? Retirement. Any other?
Because of TV, I was already thinking in your examples, I was going to say alcoholism.
Okay, alcoholism, yeah.
Correct.
I said, 55 years old, he is a black American and has no job. No reason. Number 2, alcoholism.
He doesn't want to do it.
He doesn't want to do the job, why? Always.
She knows he
Needs. He doesn't need. Okay, some people might think maybe he is the victim of racism. Because he's black, he's not getting a good job or something like that, isn't it? So this is all judgmental. We are all judgmental here, isn't it? We don't know the real story. The real story is that man is a businessman. He's got so much profit, he doesn't need to work. So he has no job. That's the real story, isn't it? But we always, become, judgmental, isn't it? So, something like wife and husband, you shouldn't be judgmental. If you don't like something of your wife, don't judge. The same thing, if the glass is half empty, if you already know this many times, if the glass is half full, some people say it's half full, some people say it's half empty, isn't it? The person who says half full is a positive person, negative person. He's a positive person. He always thinks positive. He's a happy person. And the guy who said it's half empty, he always looks, fault. He always looks, is a pessimistic person. So, in
a glass is always full. A glass is always full.
Yeah, so you're optimistic person.
Because half is full with water or milk and the rest is full with air.
And finally, dear brothers and sisters, when we talk to each other, we have to put an automatic pilot off. Do you know what is automatic pilot? Automatic pilot is, for example, I have the automatic computer running on the plane. It's like cruise control. It's just running, so you're relaxing. So that's the automatic is on. So you don't have So when somebody gives you salam, salam. So you're not looking at carefully. So your automatic pilot is on, isn't it? You're not looking at carefully. But for example, think that the automatic computer system is out of order, and you're flying. So you're all your own manual system now, isn't it? So you'll be 100%, isn't it? So that's why. So in our daily life, our automatic pilot has to go off. When you greet somebody, give 100%, and don't release your hand until the other person releases. So that means your automatic pilot is off. If it's on, it means as usual, like habitual, what habitual. So when husband and wife talk to each other, some person from the office will go back home, and the wife wants to talk something. And I have from that part, pictures like that. One person talking, the other person talking. Yes or yes or something like that. So that doesn't work out actually. So you have to give our automatic pilot off. And remember that if the women are created from the rib, think about it. Who needs home most? If the rib is to protect our heart, isn't it? So I need the rib most than the rib needs me. So therefore we need women more than women needs us. Think about it, because I need to protect my own heart. Adam has to protect her own heart, his own heart. And that's the rib that protects it. So we have to think that way. And Allah said in Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter 2, verse 187, Allah said, hunna libasul lahunna or antum libasul lahunna. That their yoga and your yoga. So may Allah make us a good, enjoyable family life, inshallah, for our life, and also let us celebrate our differences, and based on that we can make, inshallah, a good Islamic life. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Do you have any question?
Yes, my question is live for my viewers. Yeah, why not?
And any more question from anyone? No question? Quite great audience. Alright, then. One important thing, the thing that I want to conclude here, as a Muslim, our most important part is our iman, that we believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We believe that we have been created. That's our most important part. Whenever we believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is our God, our creator, and we are just His servant and His creation, then our job is to know what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked us to do and follow accordingly. That's our job. So it is important to know what actually our job is and what is our role is as an individual and as a in the community as well. I will give you a beautiful example. Like we often have to sit for an exam. So in an exam hall, whenever we know a question and we know the question is familiar to us, that means the answer is familiar to us as well. So when we can answer the questions with confidence, then what happens? We feel good about it. We feel really good that I'm going well. But what happens like when we see a question and our answer, about the answer, we are thinking 50-50, probably it's A or probably it's B. We feel confused and we feel bad about it. It can be right or it can be wrong. But in the life is just like that. It's just a small part in our eternal journey, and we are in test as well. So it is important for us to know that what actions we are going to do. Is it right or is not? So for that, only one way is there, to have more knowledge, to practice more in our society. Then we can correct our actions. So thank you very much for coming today, and we are having more activities tomorrow. We are having an information table, and we are having exam every single day during the Ramadan. And next week on Monday, we are having another seminar on another beautiful topic. So if you have time, if you do not have classes, please come and join us and do your other courses as well. This is how we can propagate what we believe. Assalamu alaikum.